So Dallas just did not look like a football team that was prepared to play at all.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Top Shelf Tuesday edition, we review Week 6 of the NFL season. In segment 1, the best, the worst, and most surprising. Segment 2, the law firm of Connors and Cotton will give us a top 5, and we'll also talk about dealing with in-season conflict, and we're going to talk about 5 different teams and how they're dealing with in-season conflict. And then in segment 3, we will talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only, and I was slightly entertained. But first, to our favorite everyman, Mike Connors, what was the best thing you saw this week, sir?
I was originally going to say the Baltimore-Washington game, both teams, because I thought they both played great. But I'm going to go a little bit further south to New Orleans. And I'm going to say Tampa Bay today. Tampa Bay came out and they put up a huge amount of points. They had 600 yards total offense. Baker Mayfield threw for 4 touchdowns. He also threw 3 picks. But Tampa Bay as a town needed that as a pickup. They've just had 2 hellacious hurricanes within the last 12 days. They needed something, and that team gave them something to go, oh my gosh, maybe life can be normal again. So that's why I'm giving Tampa the best thing I saw today, for giving that town a little respite from the hell that they're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And social studies teacher knows geography, so that's a good thing. All right. Cotton Man, Will Cotton is here, captain for life. What was the best thing you saw today?
It was early in the morning, and it was Caleb Williams' performance against the Jaguars. It was really good, really good. The kid is really looking like he's getting the command of the offense, and he's running plays very well. He had 4 touchdowns, and he could have had 5. One he kind of shorted. If he put it really out there, the guy would have caught it on the corner. He's looking good, man. He has confidence. They did zoom in on his eyes. He's going through his reads and progressions and things like that. They are on fire right now, man. If the defense can keep doing what they're doing, Swift is still doing. He's picking it up now. He's running the ball very well. They still got Roshan on the back end, who's an excellent backup. It's looking good in Chicago, and it's going to look very, very difficult in the North. So Caleb Williams is the best thing I saw.
All right, Cotton, I'm going to stay with you. What's the worst thing you saw today?
Oh, how can you not go with the Cowboys? I mean, good gosh. It was like they didn't even want to play today. They didn't even want to play at all. They had a stat. They said this is the worst game at home since 1988.
Wow.
They didn't even have the big 3. I don't see McCarthy finishing the season.
Connors, what's the worst thing you saw today?
Yeah, at first I was going to say Jags from watching them in London this morning because they just looked bad. But then I got to say Dallas. I did not think they'd look that bad. Oh, by the way, happy 82nd birthday, Jerry Jones. There's your present from your boys. They had 6. Now, the game's still going on, but last I looked was about 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they had 16 yards rushing. Dak had 158 yards passing, and he had 2 interceptions to no TDs. And I know they threw another pick in the end zone later on. So Dallas just did not look like a football team that was prepared to play at all.
Ouch. Connors, I'm going to stay with you. What's the most surprising thing you saw today?
I got to go to the flip side of that game, the Lions. I mean, the Lions, if I remember correctly, were coming off a bye, and they did what they should do. They had a perfect game plan. They moved the ball up and down the field. They had at least 3 or 4 sacks, and I don't know how many hurries and knockdowns. Dak is going to be limping for a week because they really, really put it to. I mean, their coach Campbell said, we're going to come out and punch people in the face. They punched them in the face. They punched them in the stomach. They kicked them in the butt, and they threw them in the tunnel off the field. It was an embarrassment for the Cowboy fans, and I'm only saying that because George isn't here.
God, man, what's the surprising thing you saw?
I'm going to have to revert back to the previous game Mike was talking about, the Washington and Baltimore game. Growing up as a Washington fan, I mean, these are games that you don't look for. These are the games where you lose by 35-10 and somebody gets hurt, and it's just an embarrassing game. And it's usually like a firing game where somebody loses their job. It's very, very stressing. But they looked like a real team. They looked like a real team. The offense looked like it was clicking, regardless of going against a more superior team. Baltimore is just a little bit more mature. Baltimore is ready to win the Super Bowl. Washington is right there to get their feet on their legs, get their legs going, so they can start making those runs. If things keep going in next 2-3 seasons, they should be up there trying to win those games. I know that they weren't trying to win, but they can get the win for the loss. You know what I'm saying? You lose, but you still kind of win a moral win. But in 2-3 years, there ain't gonna be no more moral wins. You got to win.
Yes,
But
no,
it was a
no
good,
more victories, but yeah, they look like they belong, and that's half the battle.
Yeah.
And speaking of that game, I'd like to mention the middle schooler that I met at the Gonzaga DeMatha game, a middle schooler named Dallas. He made a prediction. I told him I would say his prediction on the air. He predicted the Commanders over the Ravens, but he likes the Ravens. So Dallas, you're wrong, but that's okay. I kept my word, and good for you to even be out there. And good luck for the rest of your football season. Connors, anything to add before we close segment one?
No, Will made a great point. The Commanders might have lost, but they weren't outclassed. The Ravens were a better team, and that's okay. And I'm not a Redskins fan. You all know that. But they are making the right steps, the right progress. They were in that game. That was a heavyweight fight that went 15 rounds, and the Ravens got the decision. But the Commanders have no reason to hang their head. They looked very, very good. They're a step or two away. They need a little seasoning and a couple other pieces, but they are on the right path.
Yeah, that was like Cena's first match with Kurt Angle when he took the challenge and he gave Kurt all he could handle. And he was like, Undertaker walked up to him and said, "Nice job, kid." It's kind of how I felt on that. Yes, random wrestling reference. So in segment two, we will see what the top five is because we had an injury in Detroit. So I'll let them convalesce, if you will, and then we'll have our top five when we get back on the Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project, with a question for you. Are you passionate about supporting student athletes? If so, then become an official member of the CKA Save Project and make a difference today. With your membership, you'll be able to help us provide essential academic and athletic support to underserved communities nationwide. Join us in empowering student athletes to achieve their full potential, both on and off the field. Together, we can build a brighter future through education and sports. Visit ckasaveproject.org and choose your membership level now. $25 is a bronze level membership, $50 is a silver level membership, and $100 is a gold level membership. Be a part of the change. Become a member of the CKA Save Project today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment two. Let's see the OCP top five. Mike Connors, what you got?
Okay, still this week. KC, they're on a bye, but they're still on the top of the mountain until someone knocks them off. They're still my number one. Vikings are on a bye too, but they are the second team in my top five. Again, they are unmarked so far and will stay in that spot. Three, I bounced the Lions up to three after the performance this week. I had them in the top five, but I had to move them up. Next, I have Houston in four and Baltimore at five. I kind of jockeyed the last three around, but they're pretty much the same teams I had last week. And I have Washington as a 5A. I mean, they are right there. They're just not quite there yet.
All right, Cotton Man, any thoughts, reaction to that? And any Florida State with the Lions on your end?
But basically the same teams, KC, Minnesota to start with the first two spots. I'm going to put Houston right above Detroit just because of the injury to Aiden Hutchinson. But I think that's something that they can still progress. I think they can still make the Super Bowl. They just have to kind of rally together. And then fifth way, man, the Ravens are hot, man. The Ravens are winning. They're playing well. Everybody's looking good. Henry is looking unstoppable, healthy. He's not having that fluke. Oh, my calf. Oh, my, these BS injuries that he has. They don't kill him. They don't kill him with 30 carries and things like that. So keep looking out for the Ravens, man. I think they think they caught their stride and they're going to start moving up this ranking.
Yes, I watched the Ravens a couple of weeks in a row, again, strictly for entertainment purposes only, and he is still a load to bring down. And if he's only running 15 to 20 times a game, yeah, that's going to be some trouble coming in the playoffs. But our story of the week, and I'm glad I got these two here with me, dealing with in-season conflict. The New York Jets fired their head coach this past week. The Cleveland Browns quarterback situation is not very good. The Cowboys are getting run at home. You've got the Raiders dealing with a quarterback change. And I don't know what's going on in Jacksonville. Thank goodness they've got another game in Europe because I don't know if they would have been welcomed back to Florida. So, Will, you've played for me. You have dealt with in season conflict. Take any or all of these teams, and how would you deal with these situations, man?
They're also, delicate because you're dealing with a lot of millionaires too, a lot of ego going on too. Um, if we look back at history, I mean, Mike McCarthy, I mean, he had the same situation in Green Bay. He had a lot of talent. He had a lot of guys who can play, but he didn't really like maximize all the talent that he had. Yeah, I got it. He won a Super Bowl, and I give him the credit for that. But he had one of the, generational talents that we probably see once every 20, 30 years in Aaron Rodgers, and you only get to the Super Bowl once. And that's kind of something. And, it was known that he had a friction with the relationship on the entire time. I think it's the same thing quietly. I think he's just not, there's something where he's an aura that putting out that people aren't playing well or he can't put the right plays in, things like that. Things like that. Salah lost his job. There's different other reasons to lose your job. Obviously he probably had some political views that may kind of work differently than Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers. But who really knows what happens? But the thing is, at some time, maybe getting out that negative person, whether it is their contrary of your ideas, even getting them out allows you to move forward as you want to and run the situation you want. And whether it's flourishing or is it falling, we'll see. But they're making these decisions early. I think McCarthy is coming up. I really think I don't even know if his key card is going to work when he when he tried to get in the locker room. But yeah, it's difficult. It's hard being a leader. And sometimes guys can't rally. Some guys rally and things about that. Some guys don't. Some guys cower and say, "Well, it's his fault. Move over." We can, off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but there's a ton of guys, even us, coach, who we were in the locker room and we lost two straight, and then we sat down and talked to each other and said, "Man, this is bigger than us, and this is what we got to do, and this is how we got to, this is how we got to move to win a championship." And some teams do that, and we'll see if the Jets are one of those teams, and we'll see, but there are the Cowboys. We'll see, but it's an internal thing. And we'll see what happens. But change can always be good, even if it's just getting out the negativity out the locker room. So whatever it is, but
All
they're all have
right.
to figure it out.
So, Mike, you dealt with in season conflict in terms of in the middle of a school year, we had leadership changes and we still got to go to work. So, again, you've got the Jets, the Browns, the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Jags, and several other teams. Tell me what direction you want to go in terms of how you would deal with this in season conflict.
One of the biggest problems I see in professional sports is players have too much power. A lot of them don't want to be coached. They want to call the shots. I mean, NBA players, I'm going to go here, but I want this guy to be my coach. Aaron Rodgers comes to the Jets, but he wants his boy to be the offensive coordinator. Now, when it comes to the Jets, Salah was a defensive guy. And I never understood when he came to the Jets, he seemed like he'd been neutered. I mean, they had a get back coach in San Francisco for him because the guy was always running on the field and they were pulling him back. The guy was emotional. He was a hothead. He was all over the place. He had great energy. He was the most stoic head coach I've ever seen. I don't know if he just couldn't handle the limelight of being a head coach. And New York is hard, especially an organization like the Jets, which is a perennial loser. And then you bring in an Aaron Rodgers who's supposed to be the second coming of Christ. And the fourth play, he blows his ACL, or not ACL, excuse me. He blows his Achilles tendons, so that season's in the dumper. Well, he's back this year, and they're just as bad offensively as they were last year with Wilson. Okay? I mean, their defense is not that bad. They're ranked second in the NFL in yards allowed. They're ranked fifth in points allowed, and they fired the defensive-minded head coach. And at the press conference, Woody Johnson, he demands to be called Ambassador Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Still, It's not like he was elected anything. He gave Donald Trump a boatload of money to get a position, but now we have to. I want to be called Teacher of the Month Connors for the rest of my life because I won that one time. So from now on, I want to be addressed as Teacher of the Month Connors. So Mr. Johnson said, I talked to Aaron Rodgers on the phone last night, but that didn't influence me firing the head coach. Really?
It walks like a duck.
Yeah, I mean, and then he goes. Rodgers goes on the what's his name's talk show. That loudmouth punter,
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee said, "I don't see how anyone could think I've had anything to do with this. I don't have that much power. You don't? For mandatory training camp, you told the coach to go screw, and you went to Egypt.
Right?
You went to Egypt." Now, granted, the tickets were probably expensive and you probably went first class the whole way. Don't tell me you can't afford to bump that forward a week or put it off to the end of the season. You got a couple bucks. What's it going to be, $500 to change your ticket? Come on, Aaron. Please. We're not that dumb. He wants to call the shots. He didn't like Saleh. And Saleh might have lost the locker room. A lot of people up here say that. But you don't think that's because the leader of the team, Rodgers, goes to get a hug from him at the end of the game and he shoves him away? I mean, come on, read the room.
All of these things are true. I'm going to jump in on this one this week as well. I am fond of saying quarterback is the most overvalued position in football, and you're paying a lot of money for very little result. And if you look at the top 15 average salary quarterbacks, you'll find somebody that you'd be good with. So the Jets paid Aaron Rodgers a lot of money, so they kind of acquiesced to him. And how's that working out for you? The Browns paid Deshaun Watson a lot of guaranteed money. Hey, how's that working out for you? Dallas had the opportunity to allow Dak to play himself into or out of a contract, and they folded. How's that working out for you? The Jacksonville Jaguars paid a Dabo quarterback who really hasn't done much. They got a little Alabama in them in terms of their quarterback. How's that worked out for you? And I don't know what the Raiders are doing. But again, how do you deal with it? You got to keep playing games. You got to finish the season because you're going to show up. But it is not going to get better for any of these teams based on how they have done business throughout their organizational history. So with that, in segment 3, we will talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only, and I was slightly entertained. Don't look at Thursdays because I was not entertained for that. But we'll be right back on the Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project and author of Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. This book is your key to unlocking the secrets of being a successful student athlete. Drawing from my 30-year career as a teacher and coach, this instructional guide offers a unique perspective on achieving success in both academics and athletics. With over 15 personal stories and insightful antidotes, Finding the Balance is a must-read for student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators. Visit www.ckasaveproject.org to get your copy and start finding the balance today. Welcome back to the Coaches Podcast. In segment 3, we're going to talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. Let's start with my season-long bets. Baltimore and Pittsburgh keep winning, and I took the over with them. Jacksonville keeps losing. I took the over with them. That's not going to work. But I did take the under with Tennessee, and they're doing a fine job of not playing well. I believe the Dolphins were on a bye, and Buffalo plays late, so we'll talk about them next week. Denver's going Good. Keep losing. Same thing with the Raiders. Detroit, you won, but that's a big loss for you. And Green Bay looked really good today, and we'll talk about them shortly. Atlanta, they came through against Carolina, but I picked Carolina like an idiot. Washington. Now, here's the thing with Washington. I think they're going to get over 6.5. I was on them early. If you look at their next stretch of games, gentlemen, they play all in the Eastern time zone. They're not long trips. And I think they got a chance to make a nice run. That Chicago game should be very interesting as well.
Hmm.
Um, Dallas, one of my high school teammates, James, he is a Cowboys fan like I like. And he told me earlier in the week, he said, Boss, that's my high school nickname. Dallas just is not good. They can't run the ball. And because you can't run the ball, Dak's not good enough as passer to do all of these things. So I don't think you're going to get your bet this year. And that's a Cowboys fan, like way back when. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to get it either. All right, the Rams. I don't think I'm going to get that one. And Arizona hadn't gotten hot. So last week I was 4-3. This week I was 3-4, 15-27 overall, but I'm going up. For the spread, I had Washington plus 6.5. They just couldn't get it done. My two play was Green Bay -5 and Pittsburgh -3. Even though every Pittsburgh fan I talked to wants Russell Wilson as their quarterback, they keep winning with Justin Fields, so whatever. The three play came through. Chicago -1. They were -1, guys. Detroit
That's
minus three and
crazy.
a half. They were -3.5. And the Chargers was -3. I won't bet more, but I'm glad I got that one. And the four play money line, I finally got one. Houston, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Green Bay. Makes me mad about Ohio State, but that's another story. I took Cleveland and Philadelphia in the over. That didn't work for me. And I took Houston, New England, and the under, and that didn't work for me. And my upset of the week was New Orleans over Tampa Bay. And when they came storming back, I thought I had something, but I didn't have anything. Mike, did you do anything strictly for entertainment purposes only this week?
Nope, not this week, but I have a full slate lined up for next week to chime in on. So
Oh, okay. God, man, did we do anything strictly for entertainment purposes only?
We had some props, but they didn't hit. A couple of them didn't do, but it was fun. But I'm gonna jump back onto the spread next week.
All right. And speaking of next week, week 7, we've got Denver and New Orleans on Thursday, New England and Jacksonville overseas in jolly old England, Seattle at Atlanta, Tennessee at Buffalo, Cincy at Cleveland. We were looking forward to that at the beginning of the year. Houston against Green Bay. I think we've got something there. Miami versus Indy, Detroit versus Minnesota. There you go. The Eagles and the Giants. Vegas and the Rams. Carolina is traveling to Washington. Kansas City against San Francisco. Will there be a Campbell sighting? I don't know. The Jets will play Pittsburgh. And then we've got another doubleheader on Monday night. Baltimore versus Tampa, good one. And the Chargers against Arizona, not so good. Connors, do we like Monday night doubleheaders?
I do. I like the two games. It's so hard to get all the games on a Sunday. Even if you do have the package, you can't have, how many TVs can you have? So I do like the doubleheader on Monday night.
All right, Cotton Man, what about you? Do we like the Monday doubleheader?
I would prefer the Sunday night doubleheaders.
Okay. All right, Sunday night doubleheaders. And bye week, Chicago and Dallas is on a bye. They could use it. Okay. So with that, on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams, saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.